are now tuned in to this week's episode of our podcast. Today, we are going to interview some of the greatest and most influential minds in our field. By sharing our collective expertise, we will show you how to harness, control, and use your own skill set to achieve ultimate success and live the life you want. And now, please welcome your host.
This is The Backstory with Omobola Stephen. It's a balanced, objective, unbiased and disruptive conversation on government and politics. We shine more light on what has not worked and what would make it work. And now, to the finest, personable and engaging host extraordinaire, Omobola Stephen. Tune in.
Today, I have J.J Carrell, who's a frontline agent and senior leader in the U.S. Border Patrol. J.J is here to talk about the illegal migration and all the topics under immigration. Now, we'll be having a lot of discussions on that, and I hope that you're going to have a worthwhile time with me on The Backstory with Omobola Stephen. Hi, JJ, welcome to The Backstory.
Oh, thank you for having me today, and I'm very excited to talk about a topic that I think is the forefront in American politics and our way of life.
Absolutely. JJ, you had a 24-year career with the U.S. Border Patrol. So what do you have to tell my audience about your experiences as regards illegal migration?
In my 24 years, I spent in my first decade down on the Tijuana border, Tijuana-San Diego border, where I was a journeyman agent. And then as a supervisor, I ran ATV units and task forces. Then I moved up the coast and created a 50-man maritime unit where we took down Sinaloa cartel drug loads as well as huge migrant illegal alien human loads, we call them. And then I took my last probably 4 to 5, 6 years of my career in senior leadership positions within San Diego sector. And the thing that I would like to, as we go through in this discussion, is for your audience to understand what I did. My 24-year career was all the way up, and my last year was under Joe Biden. So my first 23 years in the United States Border Patrol, we followed the law. Now there's a lot of corruption and all kinds of stuff within federal law enforcement that I experienced up to that 23 years, but never did we do what we were forced to do under Joe Biden, and we're still seeing that today. What we're witnessing on the southern border is complete lawlessness. Border Patrol agents are following unconstitutional orders, and we are now seeing the largest invasion in American history. As I speak to you today, and these are DHS numbers, Customs and Border Protection, Department of Homeland Security, DHS numbers, not my numbers. I don't agree with DHS numbers. I believe they're segmented and hidden away. However, I like to go off of their own numbers because they're damning enough, and we can go from there. Per DHS numbers, they have already arrested and released 7 million people, and they have allowed over 2 million people to abscond through the open borders. So we're looking at around 9 to 10 million people in 34 months that we have no idea who they are in America. That should scare Americans.
Now, really, so what do you think is the root cause of this invasion? And why do you think this is happening to the greatest nation on earth?
Because we allowed it. We welcomed. That's what Joe Biden did in my last year. I watched him. He said, he actually ran on it as a campaign, a presidential campaign, and said, we're going to welcome people into America. And everybody in law enforcement was like, whoa, hold on a second. Number one, you don't have the constitutional authority to do that. That's in the Constitution. That is laid at the feet of Congress, not the president. It's not an executive branch decision. But as I saw the caravans of people to begin to come in 2021, they all had Joe Biden's "My President," "Thank you, Joe Biden" on their T-shirts. I knew we were in trouble. I didn't know to what extent we would, looking into the future 2 to 3 years later. But we have opened our borders completely for America. And if you break it, if you force me to tell you exactly, to jump ahead of our conversation and tell you why I believe this, I believe you are seeing a global reset from southern nations into the western nations across the globe. This is not just happening to America. It's happening to America at a historic level. but it's happening across the Western nations. Just pick up a newspaper, internet, and you will see the mass migration of people. The interesting thing and the frightening thing is we've been sold this lie that it's all family units, women and children, right? There are some women and children. I understand that. But the vast majority are single adult military age men pouring into our nation. There is no good outcome of this, America. There absolutely is not. Let me just give you just a kind of an understanding of 23 years in the Border Patrol before Biden took over my last year when I was in the senior leadership role. In 23 years, I arrested directly and indirectly thousands. I would just, for a round number, I'll say 10,000 people on the border. Drug smugglers, rapists, murderers, all the way down to a person that's just coming for a better life. I released into America after I arrested them 0 people. 0. The United States Border Patrol never released anybody. Now, every single person that comes across the border is released. It's against the law. You can't do this. So that is the difference of what normal immigration was prior to Joe Biden and Secretary of State Alejandro Mayorkas, who I believe is the tip of the spear of all the issues that are happening right now on the border.
All right, now we'd like to talk about the policy implementation. How does the border security implement immigration policies? Because you are an expert professional in this regard, what are some of the factors or variables that they need to begin to consider?
Are you asking me what I think they're doing?
Yes.
Policy-wise,
concerning the policy implementation, yes.
Okay, so it's called catch and release. That's the crude term. We catch them, meaning we are like you go fishing, you catch and release a fish. They use that same term in the media for people that cross the border. We catch them and release them. I just told you we never did that before. So this is just one example of I believe is treason. And I understand what treason is. I understand the penalty for treason is death. So I do not flippantly say this, but I believe what is happening to America is treason. So I'm gonna give you one example. For asylum, people that want to request asylum have to go to the first safe harbor nation, which would be Mexico. So all these people that are pouring over into America should be in Mexico getting asylum, okay? Number one, every time you hear asylum, it's all a lie. At least less than 10% of asylee requests are legitimately granted prior to this administration. Now it's over 90% approval rate. So it's flipped 180 degrees. So what Biden's done is he's taken this, and this is how they do it, because you don't understand, and the average person should not understand the inner workings of the Department of Homeland Security. Like if I go to Google, I don't really know the policies and procedures. I know what they do, but I don't know the inner workings. Same thing with DHS. So they took a system called parole, immigration parole. And immigration parole is very different than state and local parole for, like I have somebody that's a bank robber and I allow them to come out of jail and I parole them saying, okay, you have to meet these criteria to stay free. If you break any of these criteria, I'm putting you back into jail and I'm adding time to your sentence. And everyone goes, okay. And the individual goes away and we have weekly, monthly check-ins. Immigration parole is different. Immigration parole means I, Border Patrol agent, arrest a human smuggler. I then have an individual in Mexico that is a material witness for me. I will parole that individual in to America for a week. Have him come to court. After the court and his sworn testimony, then I will physically walk him or watch him walk back to Mexico or fly back to Nigeria or wherever they came from. Okay. And it's so rarely done, like rarely. I've never even done it in my career. That's how rare it is. I've seen other agents do it, but it's it like never happens, right? Well, they're using that. They're paroling people into America by the millions. So you have a guy that was, I believe I was an excellent Border Patrol agent, highly productive. I know the laws inside and out. And I rarely, if never, even seen parole, but now we're doing it by the millions. That's just one avenue. And I would like to talk to you about something that you're seeing in New York City. I don't know if you're in New York or New York City, but let me tell you how. So we need to go one step further, okay? So the audience can understand how evil, and I believe it's evil this is to the people that are crossing the border. Now, I have no love lost for illegal aliens. I don't. My whole life physically and literally fighting them. And I have broken bones. I have friends that are dead from doing it. So I have no love lost. However, there is a moral way to do things and there is an immoral way to do things. So think of this. So let's say I'm a Haitian man with my wife and my 2 kids. I come across the border and I get paroled, okay? And I'm going to go to New York. So I'm a Border Patrol agent. I actually don't even give, it's called a notice to appear, NTA. And on that NTA, it's going to say New York City immigration address, and you have 60 days to present yourself to an ICE officer or an immigration judge. So I go to New York. I can't see an immigration judge because the docket is full to 2032. I can't go present myself to an ICE officer because there's no ICE officers to take anything because of the deluge of hundreds of thousands of people. So in 60 days, what happens is, and people don't know this, I become out of status. And what that means in layman's terms, I become an illegal alien in 60 days. What America never gives these individuals, I'm a Haitian man, I got 2 kids and a wife. They give me all this stuff. They give me iPhones, they give me cash, debit cards, they give me everything while Americans suffer. But one thing they don't give me, and it shows you how immoral our government is, they don't give me a work authorization document. So I cannot work in America legally. And then you have to ask yourself, why would our government do that when they welcomed all these people in? Well, you need to start following the money, because now this Haitian man represents millions of people. So right now, here's our economic system. Here's Americans that can work legally. And here are millions of people that have to work illegally. So they get slave labor. They get treated with no recourse to their employers. There's no such thing as time and a half or 15-minute breaks. Hell, there's not even, I have to pay you. Because if I don't pay you, what are you going to do to me? Are you going to run to the police? And I, as an employer, are going to go, he doesn't work for me. I don't see an I-9. He has no social security number. You can't track it. So our government is so immoral. They bring in millions of people and they provide them no way to sustain themselves in America. Do you think that's okay for America to do that? I don't. I think it's immoral.
Really. Now, so I would like us to talk about the immigration reforms and also the answer to the border crisis. Let's begin to look at the real solutions to complex problems, challenges.
Okay. Here's the beauty of it. We are always told that we need comprehensive immigration reform, blah, blah, blah. No, we have more than enough laws on the books. Now, do I believe that they need to be revisited and cleaned up? Absolutely. But I don't have to come up with an imaginary scenario of reforms. Let me give you an example. President Trump fought, and it doesn't matter what you think of President Trump. I'm a Trump guy. As far as a Border Patrol agent, he's the greatest border president ever in my career. And I'll explain why. So in his 3 years, his 4 years, he was fighting his own party to get a wall, etc. He finally got a wall. And what he did was beautiful, is he went down to the Northern Triangle countries, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and then Mexico. And he basically said to them, you will stop this flood of humanity from coming up through your countries and into Mexico by standing up your border patrol, which they do have their own border patrol and military, or I'm going to stop all international federal aid to you, foreign aid. And they laughed at him at first. I remember, I lived this. They laughed at him, and then in 24 hours, Trump shut off all the money to him because they're completely dependent on America and our money. They did what he said. And let me give you an example of how that works. Everybody that crossed the border was arrested, detained, processed, and sent back to either Mexico, Guatemala, Syria, Yemen, wherever they came from, they went back. ICE was arresting hundreds of thousands of people in the interior and pushing and deporting them. At Trump's end of Trump's term, I would get, in my position, I would get 24-hour reports, daily, we call them daily 24s. And this would show me how many people were arrested. If you think of a map of the United States, and we have sectors breaking down the entirety of America. And I could see how many people were arrested across the southern border, northern border, interior by the Border Patrol. At Trump's end of Trump's term, we were arresting only 150 to 450 people a day. That's nothing. It's 2,000 miles on the southern border. So no one was crossing. The day Biden takes office, the day he takes office, those numbers jumped over 5,000. And what happened was, within 6 more months of Trump being reelected a second term, 6 to 9 months, I believe, we would have seen the most secure border in the history of America. Absolutely secure. Now, why is this important? Not only to the sovereignty of America and for the protection of America and Americans, wages, crime, schools, hospitals, all that. I also believe when an individual comes into America as a legal resident, I mean a legal resident or a legal citizen immigrant, that person must have, which they do, all the protections that the Constitution provides for a U.S. citizen. But what has happened now, because you brought in millions of people, we have first-generation immigrants that come in with nothing, trying to work their way up the American dream, up the social economic ladder, but they can't, because millions of people are coming in where jobs that first-generation immigrants are taking now are getting paid half that. So instead of making $20 an hour, they're making $9 an hour, forced to take it. So the American dream kind of just vanishes. Another part of immigration reform, and it's in my book, is you have millions of people that are jumping the line. So let's say I'm that Haitian man, but I'm here legally, and I want to bring in my wife or my kids, and I'm going through the process. It's costing me thousands of dollars, attorney fees. I'm going and having to fax and email stuff all over between us and Haiti. Well, the system's so jammed up now that I can't get my wife and my 2 kids here because these people from Guatemala or Ecuador or wherever they came from are jumped in front of me. Now, is that American? That's like me going to McDonald's and I'm standing in line, and all of a sudden a bus comes, 3 buses of high school kids, and they all run in front of me, and now I'm 175 in line in McDonald's instead of the second guy in line. No way that would be tolerated in America. So why would we do that to Americans and then do it to legal immigrants? And the end of my answer to this is, all we have to do is enforce the immigration laws that are on the books and demand the border be secure the way Trump did. Build a wall, put personnel and technology down there, force other nations to heel to what America wants. We're America. You either have borders and sovereignty and be a country, or you're not. There's no in between right now. So that's what I would do. I would follow exactly what was done in the past. And that's not 30 years ago. That's less than 3 years ago. The answers are already there. They've already been done. It's, do we now want to have the politicians that represent us, which I don't believe we have on either party.
Thanks, J.J Carrell, for sharing your thoughts on this. I'd like you just to quickly tell me about your book, Invasion. Tell us about that.
My book Invaded. Is a subtitle is The Intentional Destruction of the American Immigration System. I dive into what is happening today, the who, what, why, and how, as well as my personal stories of growing up in the United States Border Patrol as an agent and my experiences firsthand. And I believe it's very well received, and I believe it's a good book.
Right, sure. We'll be on the lookout. Can you share your social media platforms and also your website, if any?
Yes, my website is jjcarrell.com, and it has a link to amazon.com for my book. I write on Substack under J.J Carrell, and I have a YouTube channel, J.J Carrell, and my Rumble channel at John James Carroll 14, where I put out weekly videos about what's happening today on the immigration and border front.
Right. JJ, any exciting news? Perhaps you have a project in the pipeline you'd like to share with my audience?
I do. I have a new podcast that I'm doing with Brian O'Shea from dailyclout.io. It's called Mostly Peaceful. And I'm probably going to start writing a new book here within the next 3 or 4 months to time it with the election, to try to explain what another 4 years of this would look like versus 4 years of law and order.
Thanks once again, J.J. Carrell. I wish you best of luck in all the projects that you embark upon going forward.
Thank you, ma'am. Have a good day.
Yeah, all right. So if you'd like to catch up any missed episodes of The Backstory with Omobola Stephen, you can do so on any podcast distribution platforms or any cross-promotion platforms that you bump into, as you listen to experts and professionals share their thoughts on topics and subjects on the government and politics, and subtopics like science and technology, society and culture, and government. Now, I need to stay safe. I talk soon. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thanks once again.
Okay, have a great day.